Welcome! I'm so glad you're here. I'm Gila Ross, parenting educator and coach, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Confident Parent podcast, bringing you the content you need to bring more ease, joy and love into your parenting so that you can show up as the parent you want to be to your children.
Welcome. Thank you, Rachel Tuchman. We're very excited to have you here on the Power Up podcast. Rachel is a licensed mental health counselor who is just a wealth of information, but I'm going to let Rachel introduce herself to you. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you for having me. My name is Rachel Tuchman. I'm a licensed mental health counselor working in the 5 towns in New York. And I work with kids, teens, and adults. I am a HAES aligned therapist, which means I am health at every size aligned, which means that I work with parents and kids to teach them about the behaviors and the mindsets that honor health, independent of focusing on weight or changing our bodies. And I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things I've noticed, you post a lot of Instagram. That's how we on Instagram. That's how we connected. And I've noticed you speak about obviously mental health for adults, but as you said, you work with children as well. What I want to look at is mental health and social media. As we all know, social media is here. Right? It's not a question of do we or don't we. Social media is here. It's here for us. It's here for our kids as well. Where would you start from if I was a new parent telling you, I have a child and I want to know what to do with regards to social media for my child? What would you tell them?
So I want to start with just kind of like putting this out there that I think that social media can be a wonderful tool, right? So we're not here to like bash it or say like nobody should use it. It connects people. It shares important information. We can organize events. We can, kind of garner activism. It's a wonderful tool. We can share information about mental health, right? It's a really important thing. So I'm not here to bash it or say that it's something that we should never use, but it just like anything in this world that can be fantastic, there's also the potential for it to be really terrible. So I think that we need to kind of like put that out there first. We know from recent news that we found that social media, especially for young kids, can be really impactful in a negative way on their mental health. And we know that particularly for girls, there is an intense unhappiness that comes from social media use, meaning they have higher rates of body dissatisfaction. They feel, more negative moods. They have increased rates of depression and anxiety after using social media. And there was one study that came out that showed that just after using Instagram or Facebook for 7 minutes, right? Girls ended up feeling really bad about themselves. So they don't even have to be on. People think like, oh, scrolling for hours and hours, of course you're unhappy. But this study showed that it was actually only 7 minutes of being online that these girls did not feel good about themselves. So I think for parents, we really want to be mindful of what is out there, right? So I would say for you as a parent, like get on social media if you're not. Get on social media and see what it's all about. Look at TikTok, look at Snapchat, look at Instagram, see what's there so that you can have conversations with your kids about what's out there and like teaching them to be responsible social media users, and then also kind of like helping them to be very discerning also about who they follow and what they're doing. So I think for us as parents, we need to know that social media can be great. So social media on its own is not bad. It's how we use it that determines whether or not it's good for us. And that's a message that you want to give to your kids. And it's a message that, by the way, we as adults should be internalizing, right? If we want to be the model for them of how to use social media responsibly, we need to internalize a lot of these things ourselves.
You're 100% right. We connected over social media. I know for myself that there's so many accounts that I follow that can have an incredible impact. As our kids get older and they have much more of independence on social media, and let's be honest, it's younger and younger kids are on social media on their own. What would you say are one or two of the tools that we as parents want to teach them, want to give them, so they can use social media in a way that helps them and doesn't harm them?
So I think that it's important for us to ask our kids to kind of be in the habit of like questioning what they're looking at, right? And questioning what the message is of what they're looking at. So we know from the whistleblower report that we've seen that Facebook, the algorithm works in a way that it pushes headlines and posts that are going to incite anger, right? That's the reaction they want from us. They see that people who are highly emotional with negative emotions tend to stay online longer, right? Like we look for things that make us angry. And so Facebook is purposely pushing a lot of that misinformation and kind of in like sensationalist headlines. So we want to teach our kids to be aware of that. When you're following a page, like,
Right.
What are they trying to tell you here? What are they trying to get you to feel? What are they trying to get you to believe about yourself, right? Also, I guess even asking our kids, like, what is the overall, I guess, kind of trends of the pages that you're following? Are they people that are appearance based only, like they're constantly focusing on how they look and what they have and materialistic stuff? Or is there also like some feel good stuff? Like you want more diversity of content. And I think that's important. Like have your kids follow mental health pages or do good pages or good news pages, things like that, or like, like household hacks, like just interesting stuff. You really want to help them learn to kind of like diversify their feed to make it a place of like learning and growth rather than this trigger for like poor body image or bad mood. And again, that happens through open conversation. And by the way, your own example, like who are you following, mom or dad? How are you engaging? Are you only looking at like the headlines on a website and then like ranting and raving about it at home? They're hearing that and they're listening to you. Are you getting that link in the WhatsApp chat and you're clicking on it and you're like, oh my God, right? Or are you being a little bit more, you take a step back and you say like, okay, like I'm going to be a critical thinker here. I know that they like to bait me with the headline. Let me see if the article really says what I think it says. And just getting your kids to be the same way, to think about that stuff, and to always be questioning, like, what are they trying to sell me here? Because we know that's what social media is. It's trying to keep their claws in you so that you stay engaged in the platform. And I think that's important. And I think one of the biggest things for me, at least as a parent,
I really, really like what you said.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, just for me as a parent, this is like a huge one for me. This is something we do in our own home. And I think this is like really, really key is kids don't know how to gauge their time on social media. They don't have that impulse control. Adults, by the way, we don't have it either. We're really bad at like extracting ourselves from our phones and our devices. So you really need to be with them collaboratively, right? Saying like, hey, social media is great and it's fun and it can be relaxing and it can be great. But like, we also know it can be so addictive. And so I want to help you to like to manage your time on it better. So should we put, something on your phone that like it kicks you off of Instagram or TikTok or whatever after a certain amount of time? Like, what do you think about that? And how much time do you think you would need on Instagram per day, realistically? What do you think is good for you? So working as a team with your child to put limits on their device usage is so important. Again, not because hours on Instagram are bad for them, right? I told you there was that study that said really only 7 minutes is how long it takes for someone to feel terrible about themselves. But just even giving them like this opportunity to like unplug and not be on the device all day long, and to even just be mindful of like, yes, I know that like I don't want to be on this constantly. Like I should have time limits and I should be aware of how I feel when I'm on here. And again, even we as adults need those apps on our phones that shut us off and don't let us use them. And right when we had WhatsApp was out for 5 hours a couple of weeks ago on Monday, like everyone was kind of like, what do I do with myself? Like, holy moly, right? And either you were super productive or you just kept refreshing and waiting for it to come back on, right? Like it's hard for us even as adults. So imagine,
we weren't off which one,
right? Or maybe you were a combination of both. Productive, kept checking in, right? But kids, they don't have that mature brain. They don't have that ability, to learn to gauge themselves, to learn to kind of, control themselves, to learn to be like, you know what, I really need to get off of this. So they're going to need your support and your help. And again, not your control, your support and your help. And that's why I say it should be collaborative. How long do you think, like, realistically is good for you to be on social media? Like, let's put that app on the phone that kicks you off, and then let's figure out what you'll do afterwards. I think that's really important. And coming from a place of like, I care about you and I want you to, like, be in a good space, not like social media is bad and stay off because the psychologist lady said it was terrible. Like, not at all,
Yes, that's going to go down a treat. The psychologist lady said that, right?
Yeah.
I really, really like what you said about diversifying, because I think a lot of times we get, or we give the message that, like, it's bad for you and it's bad for your mental health, and the beauty industry wants to just sell you products, and Instagram wants to sell you products, and TikTok or whatever, and it's just showing you people that aren't real. But I think, and let's be honest, there's a reason why all those things are so successful.
Yeah.
Right. And to just say don't do it, it's you could say it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
And but when you say diversify, I think that's a message that we can and our kids can hear a little bit more. Like, don't you really love watching or following this person, okay, but balance that out with things that are going to make you feel good and things that are going to impact your life in a good way. I'm not sure how I feel about what you said about it comes down to us as parents. I'd much rather you have said, oh, tell your kids to do X, Y, Z. But you know what? The truth is, Facebook is a very successful company because they know how to keep us on the apps, right? So yes, it does come back to us as well. If there was one kind of lie or one kind of myth that you wanted to dispel about social media, about kids and social media, or anything about social media use, what would it be?
A lie about social media. I guess the thing that I hear the most often is that, like, social media is like the root of all our problems, right? And it's the reason that we feel terrible and that we're unhappy and whatever. And while I think there is some truth to that social media definitely can contribute to our unhappiness and to our kids' unhappiness and to so many of the issues we have in our lives, at the end of the day, and I think this is so important, and that's what I'm saying we should teach our kids, we have the control to put down that device. We have the control to put the app on the phone that shuts down the app that we're on. We have the ability to make the choice to say, there's going to be in our house no phone times. So at dinner, we don't use the phone. When we're out with the family, we don't use the phone. When we're at a family, celebration, if you're the bar mitzvah or the wedding, we don't take out the phone unless it's to take a picture. That we have to, as the adults, as the parents, as the whoever, have to say, like, there's a time and a place. And so it's easy to kind of blame all our problems on social media. But again, I say, but it's also our responsibility to, like, learn how to use it in a way that it is actually not so harmful. Because like I said, social media is not all bad. It can be the most incredible tool. Like, we have done incredible things because of social media. I'm connected with you because of social media, right? Like, I've made some amazing friends. I've been able to educate in places that I never would have been. And I've learned things that I've never heard about or knew about because of social media. So there's so many fantastic things, but when we kind of are like, it's all bad and, like, there should be, like, no, kids should not be on social media and forget it. And I just think that's unrealistic. And we're actually setting ourselves up for problems because this is part of our lives now. And instead of saying, like, nothing, zero, we're not letting, we should say, let's learn how to use it in a responsible, safe way. So I think that's kind of the lie of, like, it's all bad and kids shouldn't use it at all. No, kids should have access to it because they're going to, but in stages, responsible stages, with your guidance, with your oversight, and teaching them the right way to use it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love it what you said as well, especially for me. Like, I use social media, and I use social media honest. I use it too much, right? I'm on it too much. But when it comes to Shabbat, I'm able to switch off, right? So it's very easy for me. I'm able to switch off, and my whole family is able to switch off. So it's very easy to blame social media. Oh, I'm wasting my time because of social media. But as you said, I'm the one that's in control of it, right? And we do have much more control over social media than we like to give ourselves credit to. And if I'm able to switch it off for Shabbat, which is an incredible gift for me, that 25 hours without social media. And the most disappointing thing always is when you switch on the phone after Shabbat and you're like, I've been off for 25 hours. The whole world's going to be clamoring for me. And no one cares. They've all just managed fine without you. But again, it goes to show that we have that capability and we have the responsibility. We're in charge, really. And I think if I have to sum up the two truths and a lie about social media, and I think you've given us way more than two truths and a lie. And I really encourage people to listen to this podcast again, because you gave us so many good tips here. I think two of the things that you've taught us is it's about teaching our kids to use it responsibly, right? One of the great ideas you gave was about diversifying our feed, being responsible for how often we are on it. And I think, the lie that you said, which is true, is it's not social media that's bad. It's how we kind of choose to use it. And it's a very powerful thing to teach our kids. Thank you. I really, really appreciate your time, Rachel, and your wisdom. You've given us such incredible insights and tools to help our kids navigate the world of social media.
Thank you. I do want to add also that, they put parental controls on these apps. And I think a lot of the time parents will put those controls in and they're like, all right, we're good now. I don't have to, check in at all. But I say the parental controls are just one layer of protection. And so, yes, you want to talk to your kids about privacy and about not accepting people they don't know as friends on these things, and that they use devices in public in open spaces in your house, not alone in their room with the door closed and the lights are always on. And we want to kind of emphasize all that, but at the end of the day, the parental controls, like I said, are one teeny piece, and all those other things hey, if you're on your iPad or your whatever, let's do it here in the den, not upstairs in your room alone in the dark at night. Right? Because again, we also know from research that when kids or adults, when anyone is in a dark room alone, they tend to be less inhibited and will act in ways online that they wouldn't typically act if they were with people around and if there's lights on. And they've shown that people, even if they put a hood over their head, that they'll act in ways that they wouldn't typically, because I guess they kind of feel more hidden and be a little bit more sinister or kind of act out of character. So yeah, parental controls are just one tiny piece, but really the main piece, and that I think is the more important piece, is open communication, constant communication, right? It's not a one-time conversation of okay, here's what it looks like to behave responsibly online and good luck, kid. No, constantly talking about it, constantly being open to allowing your child to have these discussions and not being judgmental. So if they come to you and they're oh, I follow this celebrity, you're not oh, what you follow her? Ew, no, oh, okay. What do you like about her? Oh, she has great music. Even if you think the music is ridiculous or you can't stand this, whatever you are interested in, I want to be interested in because it matters to you. So it matters to me. And when we facilitate that open, honest, non-judgmental discussion, our kids will share with us what they're doing online. And that is preventative. And that teaches them how to engage, responsibly. And then if there ever anything does come up, they are more likely to come to you because you've created this environment of you can talk to me about stuff. I'm here and I want to listen and I'm interested and I want to help and I want you to be happy. And I think that's really super important. So yes, parental controls, those privacy settings, but talk about why that's important and keep checking in with them. That's really key.
As you say, it's ongoing communication, right? It's not this one thought, but it's a constant communication.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a one-time discussion in parenting. That's what I say.
Yeah. Nope, there isn't. Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you. Really, this was so valuable. So many nuggets of wisdom in here. Really, really appreciate your time, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions for future episodes. And please take a moment, think about someone else who might benefit from this and forward it on to them. If you enjoyed this podcast, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully, for more insights on how to bring meaning, joy, love into your life based on timeless Jewish wisdom. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out.